There are a lot of things about us that will get hyped, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But long story short, there's a lot of things that will get hyped. So when the hype is there and maybe the hype doesn't play out, how do you handle that?
Hey fellas, what's going on? The feedback that you hear is due to the fact that I recorded this episode when I was on the highway driving back to Knoxville from Memphis. So you'll hear a little bit of feedback, but that should not take away from the message. So y'all take a listen and let me know what you think. Y'all enjoy. All right, peace. What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go.
What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, and I hope y'all are doing the doggone thing, as I always say. I hope you're making the most of your morning, your afternoon, your night, whenever you happen to have pushed play on this particular episode. I hope you're making it happen, no matter what time of the day, time of the night. I hope you're just making the most of it, because guess what? You know, the moment is all we have, this particular moment. Yes, we do things to prepare for the future, but we have no control over the future. We live in this moment. It's one moment at a time. You know, sometimes folks say, hey, one day at a time. I literally break it down to one moment at a time. Because if you think about it, sometimes we can have a great moment, right? And we allow that moment to carry us forward. But it's the focus on that moment. You know, conversely, sometimes we can have, you know, a horrible moment. Like one thing in a specific moment is horrible. And we allow that moment to spoil the rest of the day, right? So at the end of the day, if we're really honest about it, it's not one day at a time. It's one moment at a time. Because the moment that you are in right now is all you got. You got that, fellas? As a dad, as a husband, as a man, you know, as a business owner, however you ultimately define yourself, this moment is all you have. And so you have to make the most of it, no matter what you're doing, you know, or how you're doing it. More importantly, it should inspire how you operate, because you realize that this moment is everything. This moment is everything. So, speaking of the moment, I wanted to throw something out there. Oh, don't forget, make sure to subscribe via all the different podcast listening apps. Visit blackfathersnow.com and visit IamMikeDorsey.com as well. If you're interested in me coming out and speaking to your group, whatever, you know, get at me. Any of those platforms, follow me on social media. I'd love to connect and rap back and forth with you. But back to the conversation at hand. Speaking of the moment, you know, I think it was last week. Yeah, last week I was watching part of this basketball game that was getting all this hype, right? It was the Duke, North Carolina basketball game. And for those that are not basketball fans, well, whether you're a basketball fan or not, you've heard the name Zion Williamson, right? Like, he is kind of the next coming of the great hype in regards to basketball. Like, I mean, the brother's bad, right? But the thing is, you know, he is currently being billed as the next coming of, you know, of greatness, or the next great one, or the one that's already donned the next king, so to speak, to step into the NBA, you know, after the upcoming draft and make something happen. He's that one. He is all the hype. He is all the hype. Like, they're putting all their eggs, it seems, into the basket of Zion Williamson. Hype. He's good. He's backing it up. But still, hype. 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 All these entities, ESPN, if you look at any advertisement for college basketball right now, I don't care who's playing, you'll probably see a clip of Zion Williamson somewhere. Hype. They are hyping this brother up. And it was interesting, leading into this game, there was a scenario where they were, kind of showing how the tickets for the Duke North Carolina game were the highest that I believe they had ever been. And a lot of that centered around the hype of this guy, this phenom, this next coming, Zion Williamson. I mean, they were saying tickets were going for as much as $10,000 for a college basketball game. Amazing, right? Again, hype. He's backing it up. And he'll ultimately, more than likely, be the number one pick in the draft and probably sign a 9-figure endorsement deal with one of the shoe companies, immediately. I mean, he's that guy, right? But again, hype. But I want y'all to take a step back, because everything was leading up to this game. This showdown was billed as the showdown of, this season. The tickets were high. Everything was legitimately centered around this guy that college basketball and the NBA is kind of, putting their resources behind to help push their brand because of what he's shown that he can do and what his physicality shows. But 30 seconds into the game, Zion Williamson got hurt. I didn't say with 30 seconds left. 30 seconds into the game, Zion Williamson got hurt. So you hype. You have folks paying $10,000 to go to this game to, in essence, see this guy. All the advertisements, all the focus was around Zion Williamson and everybody else. Real talk. And they have other, explosive players who are going to get drafted really high and all of that, but all the hype is around him. And within the first 30 seconds of the game, he gets injured. Think about that. Hype. There was a poem that I learned years ago called If. And one of the stanzas in If states, if you could meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. So, in essence, what it was talking about is how do you approach really, really high highs and really, really low lows. See, this brother's been getting hyped as the next one. He's been getting billed the next one. He is he's the draw to folks wanting to pay $10,000 to see a college basketball game. But then he gets hurt 30 seconds in. The hype on the front end, and then the devastation or the injury on the back end. How is that approached? When something is hyped so much and then it does not turn out as billed, then what? Now, I'm not saying that this guy won't pan out, because, everything is pointing to the fact that he should be a superstar. But in this specific instance, he was hyped as the draw. But then it didn't happen that way because he was injured 30 seconds into the contest. So in essence, all the folks that came to see him never got to see him really, because he was hurt literally right after tip-off. Can you meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same? It would be interesting, to get into the mindset of this brother. I would love to have a conversation. Maybe if somebody out there knows him personally, give him my info and tell him to holler at your boy, because I'd love to talk to him. But, with the hype, with all of this buildup, with everybody in the world saying, you're the guy, you're the next this, we're betting our, organization on you. We are building things around you. And then things don't pan out. What happens? From a mindset perspective, go back to the point if. Can you meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same? It's interesting. So, fellas, as we approach life, there are a lot of things about us that will get hyped, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But long story short, there's a lot of things that will get hyped. So when the hype is there, and maybe the hype doesn't play out, how do you handle that? How do you approach that? How do you meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same? It's not to say that you should not go through the range of emotions, right? Because we have emotions for a reason, right? We have the ability to get angry because there are instances in which we should get angry. We have the ability to get sad or to get excited or to be happy, right? Those are all there for a reason, so that we can express ourselves, in a way that is conducive or that is congruent with the situation at hand. That's real. We're supposed to go through the range of emotions, as things happen. But how do we respond? Because I think when I read the poem If, and I mentioned or I reflect on meeting triumph and disaster and treating those two imposters just the same, it's about the response. So with a brother like Zion Williamson, who was hyped prior to this particular, encounter with North Carolina, the Battle of Tobacco Road, so to speak, how does he then handle the back end of, things didn't turn out the way that I anticipated? Because, and I just use this as an example or as a backdrop to think about your life, to think about our lives, to think about us as black men, as if we expect certain things, sometimes we hype things up ourselves. What happens if they don't turn out the way that we initially intended? What happens if we don't necessarily live up to the hype? How do we handle that? How do we respond? Again, it's okay to go through a range of emotions, right? We are built to be emotional creatures. That happens. There's nothing, unmanly about going through the range of emotions. But the thing is, how do you ultimately respond and react on the back end? Allow yourself to go through the range of emotions, but then what's your response? And I think that's something that we really have to understand about ourselves. We have to first know who we are. We have to know how our bodies and how our mental psyche and how our emotions, how they respond to various stimuli, right? We have to know that about ourselves. But on the flip side of it, we have to train ourselves in our response, because we cannot let our emotions get the best of us, especially if we were hyped up, whether not authentic, but whether it was warranted or not. We don't necessarily need to allow ourselves to get down if we don't necessarily live up to the hype that was presented, because sometimes that hype is warranted and sometimes it's not, right? But and in this case, I don't know. I guess time will tell in regards to how things pan out for the young man, and I hope everything pans out well, because he is an awesome talent. But hype, how do you deal with the hype if it does not turn out the way that you initially intended? Think about that. And again, fellas, as fathers, as black men, we have to be mindful of how we respond when things don't turn out the way that they were initially intended to, because our kids are watching us. Our spouse is watching us. The world is watching us. There are some people who are sitting around just waiting on you to just crumble and turn into a basket case. We don't have the ability to do that. Again, you can go through the range of emotions, but in regards to how you respond and how do you react on the back end, we have to be very understanding and calculated and thoughtful in regards to how we do that. Give yourself the space to go through the emotions. I think sometimes, fellas, and I've been guilty of this myself, if I don't give myself the space to allow my body to go through the full range of emotion, then I have this stuff built up inside of me that ultimately needs to come out, and I've not given myself the proper space or flexibility or environment to allow it to release so that I can get it out, and then I can go and react and respond accordingly. And so that then impacts my reaction or my response. But we have to think about that, man. So, fellas, I'd love to get your thoughts on this concept. I know ladies are listening too. Y'all can chime in. I'm talking to the brothers, but y'all can chime in if you like. but give me your thoughts on it. The whole concept of hype, and how do you deal with the hype if the results do not necessarily pan out the way that you initially intended? All right. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this one. As always, continue to subscribe, continue to share, continue to keep the dialogue rolling. Black Fathers Now, this is all about bringing the village to the brothers. Insight, inspiration, and wisdom. But it's all about us being the best men that we can be, which ultimately the byproduct of that is we become the best fathers that we can be. And so that's what this is all about, fellas. So this is a thought-provoking concept here today, and I'd really love to get your feedback, your thoughts on it. And as always, definitely subscribe, share, leave some ratings on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe via YouTube. Just subscribe. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe. Share this thing out. Leave some good ratings so that we move up in the rankings. And visit blackfathersnow.com. Oh, grab a copy of my book, Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto. It's really an awesome book that celebrates the nuances of black fatherhood, but it really celebrates 10 commitments necessary for us to, commit to so that, we can be the best brothers that we can be, because the world depends on it. Visit blackfamilyapparel.com. Grab some dope apparel celebrating the black family. And if you're interested in me coming out to speak, again, visit IamMikeDorsey.com and submit a request. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.
Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.